Marks & Spencer has announced that Jill McDonald, the Halfords chief executive and the former UK boss of McDonald's, will be joining the company in October to head up its clothing, home and beauty division. M&S has struggled in recent years with poor sales in its non-food divisions, but the firm's chief executive, Steve Rowe, who took up the top job last year, has pledged to turn things around. Well, joining me now to discuss this is Kirsty McGregor, head of news content at the fashion magazine Drapers. So, Kirsty, she's a fashion novice. She's never worked in fashion before. Can this work?
Yeah, I mean, it was a big surprise this morning, and it's already attracted some criticism because she doesn't have that fashion background, and clothing has been the one division of Marks & Spencer that's really struggled. They're going to rely heavily on the existing internal team. They've promoted Jo Jenkins, so she's looking after clothing and she'll report into Jill. So, I think they've really put all their bets on that team having the product knowledge that can support her in this role.
And yet she's not without a pretty impressive CV. I mean, she was at British Airways for 16 years, knows an awful lot about marketing and branding. You know, she did a fantastic job at McDonald's UK. Halfords, well, their share price is down nearly 3% today, so obviously investors there are sorry to see her go. I mean, this is a talented woman we're talking about.
Yeah, there's no doubt she's respected as a leader. What she seems to bring to the role really is she's able to drive growth through focus on the customer, and that's something that Marks & Spencer sorely needs. That's something that CEO Steve Rowe has recognised, that they've lost that focus on the customer. So presumably that's been the real reason that they've brought her into this role.
And what about the other challenges that she faces? I mean, Marks & Spencer have been quite explicit that they've managed to avoid passing on the cost of the weaker pound to date through hedging. That's probably going to unwind at some point, so it gets tougher for them from here, doesn't it?
It does, and there's also the added pressure of there's a lot of discounting on the high street with fashion retailers, so there's that additional pressure on them to sort out their pricing. They've been trying to bring down the prices on a lot of their lines as it is to make sure they've got the right price at the right time, so that they can the right price first, so that they can sell everything full price, and then there's this pressure, costs are going up, so that's something she's absolutely going to have to look at, is how they keep their cost base as low as possible when the sterling is so weak.
Yeah, that was the interesting thing that Steve Rowe did, didn't he? I mean, he wanted to wean them off discounts, and so he lowered prices across the piece, but they are selling more items at full price now.
Yes, and that seems to have started to show some benefits. They also reduced the number of promotions that they ran last year, and I think that's been quite beneficial because people want to, I think the M&S customer is looking for value for money, but not necessarily for everything to be on sale all the time.
So in the last quarter that they've reported on, their clothing and home sales were up 3.1%. Yeah. Is it too early to say they'd already turned the corner?
I think it is, and Steve Rowe was quite careful to say, this doesn't necessarily mean that we're entering a period of sustained growth in clothing and home. But it's a good sign, of course, and some of the stuff they've done around taking out some of the slightly more tired in-house brands that they had and making their clothing offer more streamlined and a bit clearer to the customer has stood them in good stead. And that's, it's a good time really for Jill to be coming in.
And what about the job itself, Kirsty? I mean, it's been a graveyard for people tipped for the top at M&S. Kate Bostock, John Dixon, to name just a couple.
Yes, I mean, there's no doubt it's pegged as one of the hardest jobs in retail, and it certainly is. M&S is. It's a very large business. It's quite complicated. It's got quite a rigid structure. They're not able to make decisions and kind of act on them as quickly as others. And so that's one thing that she'll come up against is trying to get some of those, her strategy, trying to get it in place quite quickly.